Hi everyone, good afternoon, and thank you so much for tuning in live to the Meiyume Showcase 2022. We are coming to you live from sunny Singapore. My name is Shaza, and today I'm going to be your moderator for this segment titled Finding a Niche in Mom and Baby. However, in my day-to-day job at Meiyume, I'm an account manager in Indonesia. Here with me today, Duri Granziol, a co-founder and CEO to direct-to-consumer brand Mama's Choice. And this brand produces safe, natural, and also halal products which are targeting for Southeast Asia market. Talking about Juri himself, I would like to introduce himself also that he is originally from Switzerland, began his career in investment banking and came to Asia on 2012 as a project leader with the Boston Consulting Group. He joined the Lazada Group in 2014 and worked in Singapore and the Philippines. He eventually served as a co-CEO of Lazada Indonesia before going back to Singapore for his current role. Okay, so let me explain a bit of this session. So this session will be divided into two sections. So the first one is going to be the presentation from Juri himself, and then the second one will be the session of the question and answers, in which you, the audience, or you can ask the question, drop it to chat box, and then yeah, you can ask and then you can answer after. So now, moving along to our session, let's hear the presentation from Juri. So
Cool.
Juri, all over to you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So let me walk you a bit through what Mama's Choice is so you can understand a bit better what we're up to and yeah, what our history is. So I have a brief story here. Okay. Basically, we are a direct-to-consumer brand all arranged around pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. Our core is one worry less. So we're trying to do products for moms and babies that are free of harmful chemicals, tested in Singapore, and considered completely safe. So moms don't have to worry about what they buy, and we try to give them the full solution. So by now we already have 55 products in mom's, baby, and house care, so basically personal care, and another 45 products in mom and baby accessories such as breast pumps and so on. We are headquartered in Singapore, but we're in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines, and soon also in Vietnam. As said, our vision is one less worry. So we really want mothers, especially first-time mothers, who are very anxious often because it's the first time in their life they're doing this. There is no other way. Like, pregnancy is a complete change in the life of many women. They've never gone through that, and they often worry a lot, and they go on the internet like we all do nowadays, and they find a lot of very unsettling articles about this is bad for you, baby, this is bad for your pregnancy. So we're trying to make life easier for them by having products where they can Google as long as they want on their ingredients, and they will not find an ingredient that's considered not safe. So yes, safe, effective, honest, toxin-free, and value for money product range. Since we're targeting the Southeast Asian market, value for money is obviously a very important part, because these are all still developing countries, so the available income is not that high, right? So we cannot price in the premium range and serve a lot of moms, right? And our mission is really to impact the whole market, so we are always working on an affordable price range. So as you can see, there's often three choices a mom has in the market. So far, it was mostly a mass market product. So called this the no-no option. They were typically cheap, full of toxins, non-safe for pregnant and nursing moms. So what we mean with that, there's a lot of ingredients. If you take your traditional mass market product and you Google the ingredients and Google safe for pregnancy, you will find quite a few articles on why maybe this product is not so safe for the market, right? And then there was many imported products from high-end brands that are also quite modern, that have scaled down the number of ingredients a lot. They have a lot more modern ingredients, and they are just very expensive. So what we tried is to serve the market with product that's safe, natural, and also halal at a reasonable price. So we're sort of targeting the mass market, but with a product that's a bit premium. Our brand promise is safe. As said, we're checking every ingredient. We're always doing double checks in our own independent lab. And we try to use as many ingredients that are out of nature as possible. Honesty, we disclose our ingredients. So if you go to our website, you would see any product, where it's derived from, why we're using it. So that's also holding us accountable to a lot of discipline, because we're also doing this ourselves, right? And also our manufacturing partners a lot, such as Meiyume, because we're basically always questioning, do we need this ingredient? Is it really necessary? And often we are able to reduce the number of ingredients if you do that. Respect and togetherness. So that really means we also always work with the community around us. We support them with resources, learning, trainings, and so on, so they can really have less worries in their journey. I mean, the typical products we avoid is parabens, fluorides, triclosan, phthalates, alcohol, SLS. So while these ingredients, many people can argue that there is no proof that they are bad for you, and we're not claiming that we have any proof for that, but there is enough suspicion for us to not risk any of these ingredients, because we can build great products without them, right? So we started on the maternity products. We then went on to do some household products, especially because the baby spends a lot of time on the floor. So we wanted to make sure we can also offer products that allow you to clean your household without having any questionable substances. And then we launched baby products, and in the end, accessories. So if you look at a timeline, we started 2019 and went on 2020. We already had around 20 products. We launched a baby series in 2021. We won a lot of awards in 2021, and now in 2022, as said, we have over 100 products. We are market leader in most of the countries we're in, so Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam not yet, Philippines, and Indonesia, and Singapore. If you search, for example, for stretch mark cream, our products will rank on top. It's really been an amazing journey so far, and yeah, we're still growing at double digit every month, so there's still a lot for us to increase. So our target consumers are obviously young women, 22 to 35, either pregnant, nursing mothers, young mothers who are mostly urban. They mostly juggle between motherhood and actually raising their child. So that's also why we are more of a modern brand, right? Like our mothers are often not typical traditional role models, because they are juggling it in the urban environment of making money, sustaining a family, and so on, right? So yeah. So now, what made us so successful so far? First thing, obviously, is data-driven, because we are looking at data for everything now. Me personally, I don't even have kids, so this is a disadvantage and an advantage. So disadvantage, it's a bit hard for me to feel like my customer, but on the other side, I don't have a personal opinion. I will always only be data-driven. So I don't often your personal opinion like taints your judgment, because you extrapolate from yourself, right? For me, that's not a problem, because I don't have kids, so I'm not involved. I'm just looking at the data. And also when we do campaigns and our sales, we constantly measure the data and constantly optimize. Second thing is by mamas for mamas. While I'm not a parent, we have a lot of parents in our team. We always ask them, so there is no decision that's made without the mother, an actual mother, being involved. And we also constantly interact with our community of customers, right? And then third, digital first. So we are purely digital in terms of marketing. We don't spend much on offline so far. We are digital in the true sense that we actually don't just put our ads online and now it's digital. No, for us, digital means it's two-way communication. For us, it means when you're a brand, you basically talk digitally to your consumers and they respond. And that's really what digital means to us. Here a bit more details, right? Like when we say we're data-driven, we run polls. We've so far collected over 1.3 million responses. We've done surveys with over 300,000 moms in Indonesia. We've done focus groups with over 300 people. And I mean, mind you, we're only in the market since a bit more than 3 years, right? So we constantly ask out there and go out there and do our research. The reason why we can afford this is because we do it ourselves. If we would work with research agencies, we would have spent millions. I will talk about that later, that we have also some great partnerships to do our own research, but that's really one of our cores. As said, we have a lot of mamas in our teams. Here are some of them. 45% of our team are moms, and it's still increasing the share because we hire a lot of young people, and a lot of them turn to become parents while they're working for us. So they also go through the process. So it's actually great to kind of know how we now have in the firm and people that identify with our products. Also, every staff gets, when they join, they get a bundle of our products, and when they become pregnant, they get another batch, and when they get a kid, they get another batch. So they really try our products and learn from them. But also all other stuff. So I use some of our products too, because yeah, you can use the stretch mark cream as a hand cream. You can use the deodorant. I use that, for example. You can use many things. Also when you're not pregnant or breastfeeding. Yeah, so on the marketing side, maybe the last piece here, right? What we really do is content marketing. So young moms search for answers. They want to know things, and that's where we help. We have the several thousand pieces of content out there to educate moms about what to do when certain problems arises, how to raise children, when they can feed certain things to their kids, and so on. That's where it's a long-term thing. We build that content and we put it out there, and then you get search results, you get people on YouTube seeing it, and so on, right? We're very strong on social media marketing. Our social media is also entertaining and educating. On social media, you can't just educate, you also need to entertain. So we have a lot of funny content out there that parents can relate to. And yeah, sometimes being a mom is tough. So we also help them to relax sometimes and have some funny content, right? Influencer marketing, obviously, we work with a lot of influencers out there that are moms themselves. Preferably, we work with young moms that are pregnant for the first time and go through the journeys with their followers. So that's very interesting. And then community. So we have over 10,000 people on WhatsApp groups that we support with content, that we connect with each other and ask for feedback, testing products, testing prototypes, and so on. And then, of course, this is all amplified by digital performance marketing, which gives us just enormous reach for the amount of money we spend. One thing here to highlight, we're also partnering with the biggest parenting platform in Southeast Asia, which is theAsianParent. So we can also seed content on there. We can cooperate. We can do social media cooperations. And we also work with them to get our customer research respondents, because they basically have all the moms of Southeast Asia on their platform. So we work with them to do surveys to understand what moms want, what they like, what they understand about our brand, and so on, right? Yeah, so that's a great partnership for us, and it enabled a lot of our work. Yeah, and then I think last, a few trends that we see, and I would say they're quite similar in the whole industry. We see a lot of personalization. I mean, consumers acquire a lot about, yeah, but I have this special skin type. Will this work for me? Do you have another one specifically for my skin type? Customers combine different products from different brands, and they ask, is that possible to get like their unique treatment kind of routine? So we responded to that. For example, we have now facial serums for pregnancy skin, but there's two main directions that the skin usually goes. Either it gets very dry and dull, or you get pregnancy acne. And we have now two different serums, and we have two different sheet masks for the different conditions. So, and we'll probably do more and do combinations of the two, so mothers can get really the custom treatment for themselves. We see trading up and down. So we see a lot of the consumers that used to buy expensive important brands buying our products. So they're actually trading down. We have more affordable product, but they see we have the similar benefits. On the other hand, we see a lot of people buying our products that used to buy mass brands. And it's quite impressive that when we do research and see our average income of our customers, we actually have a lot of people in the lower socioeconomic bands, where our products are still a considerable amount for their disposable income. So people do actually value our proposition and do trade up from the typical mass market products they would buy. On the other side, what's also helping there is local brands. So consumers ask a lot about where is the product produced and where is the brand from, and they actually favor local brands. Specifically, Indonesia is a great market for that, where people really want the brand that's connected to the local market, where we are not fully local, we're a regional brand, but we test our products with Indonesian moms. We work in Indonesia, the majority of the team is Indonesia, but we have local teams everywhere, and we test our products locally everywhere and take the feedback in. So we can really give people the impression of a truly local and connected brand. And yeah, and I think also more and more people start realizing that a lot of the big FMCG brands, they test their product on women in Europe and as on Caucasian women in Europe. And actually, they just then launch the same product to Southeast Asia and to all of Asia. And I mean, not everybody is doing that, but I know of a lot of brands who do that. And people start to realize that. And they demand a product that's more specific, or at least tested for their specific skin type and other conditions. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think we will have a bit more discussion, but already here is my LinkedIn if anybody wants to reach out. Very happy to discuss.
All right. Thank you very much, Duri. That was very interesting. Okay, so move on to the next session. I think everyone has already got some questions, so let's move on to question and answers. So probably it's gonna be like a question and answer, so
yeah.
Feel free lah. So the first one, because right now there are lots of products out there like moms and babies, and they try to win customers. Do you think that mama stores will continue to have an advantage when competing with other brands, including the multinational ones?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things, right? There's a lot of competition from other up-and-coming brands, and then there's big multinationals. Big multinationals, I mean, we can be more fast than them. We can be more reactive. We can identify trends quicker. We can do more customized things because big international brands need volume, right? While the way they operate, they will never serve like super niche markets. So you don't see a big multinational doing a stretch mark cream. You don't see a big multinational doing a nipple cream because it's too niche for them so far, right? So no, I'm not afraid of them. Obviously, if we go into products that the big multinationals do as well, we need to have a much more modern formula. We need to have a unique USP, which so far we've been confident to create. And I don't see much trouble on that. On the other side, of course, there's a lot of other up-and-coming brands, and that's tough, right? The environment is tough. But there's just all you can do about that is flawless execution, perfect execution, right? Like everybody, having ideas is cheap. Having it well executed is the hard part, and that's where we as an organization have built over the last 4 years. Like we have built a very good team, and we still make everybody strive for excellence, right? And that is hard to do, and it's hard to do across 4 or 5 countries. So yeah, I think we're in a great space. We're in a great position, and yeah, we're not worried, but obviously always monitoring our competition.
See. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit curious since now, like COVID, everything. I know that I understand that a lot of mothers now become more protective toward their children, right?
Yeah.
So does that actually affect the way you provide the product for the market? How do you manage to cope with it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, product safety, and I think it's COVID, but there's also some underlying trends of more natural, being more wary about chemicals out there in products, right? That's just the underlying current that's coming more and more. There's more and more stuff you read about certain chemicals in our food, in our packaging, and so on, that maybe are not as safe as we thought they were, right? And people start realizing that, and then COVID gave like an extra kick. Okay, now there is something new out there that's dangerous. So what we can clearly see is that moms really want safety. That's the majority of what they want, and that you see that in our product design and everything. We're going more for a classic kind of and a look that instills like confidence and trust, much more than trendy and nice and modern, right? Because when we look at what a mom wants, she wants something she can trust, right? and being trendy and cool is like secondary. And I think COVID definitely helped or definitely pushed people more in that direction.
So you changed the way you do the marketing and everything as well, right?
We were always on that track. So I think COVID just amplified it.
Yeah, good for you. Okay, so move on to next one. So we're talking about the ASEAN market. How do you see the trend of mom and baby in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I think we typically here we only had international brands, right, from the West mostly. What you can see is more brands coming in from China that often have also much better cost value for money proposition because they are almost they're in the same segment as we are, mostly like mass premium. They have premium products but sell it at a mass price, and then you have more local brands coming up, right? You even have Western brands on Instagram selling super premium stuff. I get a lot of Instagram ads. So I mean the scene has become much more diverse. So while you had the big 4 or 5 multinationals before, now you have Chinese brands coming in, you have a lot of local small brands, and then you have even international sort of D2C startups also targeting the market.
Okay, so I heard that in the presentation you mentioned that you want to attack all the markets. So you want to keep the price as reasonable as possible so you can get all and grab all the markets. And how can you keep a balance between keeping your product safe, halal, and natural, in which I know that it's not going to be as easy as probably the rest of the products.
Yeah.
How do you keep a balance in those?
I mean, we obviously, it's keeping a balance, right? So, I mean, we have certain things we will not compromise on, right? We have a list with around 1,000 ingredients that we will not touch. We have the concept of cutting out as many ingredients as we can. So whenever we get first formulas, we will usually try to cut as many ingredients out. And if we do research, is there any new research out there that says one of the ingredients might be not ideal? And then we basically, that's what we don't compromise on, right? And that gives us our base price, and then we're trying to figure out if it can work in the market, right? If we cannot work out a price that's still affordable and allows us to have a product that we can stand behind, then we don't do it, right? But obviously there's this thing we work out, right? Package size, concentrations of for example, fragrances, right? We are very much committed to not use any like potentially allergenic fragrances, and we mostly use essential oils. But then sometimes we might dial down the aroma a bit, so we don't need to use as much expensive ingredients, and it's still pleasant, but it's maybe less than what the ideal market demand would be, because people are still used to very strong fragrance, right? But we also see that people will more and more get used to that actually strong fragrances, mostly like more artificial fragrances. And again, there's a lot of debate about that. But some people, I mean, more and more are convinced that maybe you shouldn't use too much of them, right? And so that's something where we can also manage cost a bit, right?
Yeah, I think people get more educated and they were willing to pay more for the same products, especially during this era, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I look into your background. You have some background about e-commerce, so I think this is something that we'd like to ask as well. And do you have any thoughts on the development of e-commerce within ASEAN in recent years, and how has it evolved since the founding of Lazada Shopee?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had tremendous growth, right? So we had through COVID and already before, e-commerce was growing rapidly. And now it's a bit slower. There's no new competitors, but I mean, TikTok now is getting into e-commerce, and actually, especially for beauty, they're huge, right? I would say in certain market segments like cheap lipsticks, cheap beauty products in Indonesia, they would be the market leader by now. So that's been a bit of a mix-up. But other than that, there is not so much new stuff, and the market has consolidated a bit. It's gonna grow a bit slower because people are going more offline again, and also they have more money to spend on other things. They spend on travel again, they spend on maybe cars and petrol and gas, which they wouldn't spend on during COVID because they didn't have to go to the office, right? So the disposable income is a bit lower. So that's why we see a bit of it slowing down. But this is temporary, right? Southeast Asia is a region where people are getting more wealthy by the year, and the economy is booming, and people will more and more buy online still. Because if you look at a very mature online market like China, you would see that a lot of categories are actually 30% of the whole retail volume is online. And in Indonesia, for example, which is quite far ahead, you would only see 10% max. And a lot of categories are still way below 10% of online share of total retail sales. So there's still a lot of room to grow. It can still be 3 times bigger. So the market overall is growing because you have more wealth being created, and Southeast Asians are getting more wealthy. So the total pie is growing, and then the share of online within that, I said, it can still grow like 3 times. But then combined with the total market growing, there's even more growth available, right? So yeah, there's maybe going to be new competitors at some point, but the pie is now so big that if you want a considerable chunk of it, you have to invest a lot, right? So basically the big platforms are quite cemented in there because nobody else has that much money. But on the other side, what you see is that so far consumers in Southeast Asia were very reluctant to buy from brand.com because online is still very connected to fraud, right? So the e-commerce platforms like Lazada, Shopee did a great job of getting people used to buying online, but they trust Lazada, they trust Shopee, they have their payment information in there, they have their delivery address in there. They don't really like to enter that somewhere else, e.g. in a brand.com site. But what you see, like, people are getting more wealthy, people are more, they want to differentiate and buy something special that not everybody can find. So then they're more willing to go to brand.com websites, and we're seeing a small, slow shift there. And I think that's going to be a trend worth watching, whether actually more of the sales are going straight to the brand websites.
Actually, I will receive one question here.
Okay.
Like asking, how do you run a business? How did you come up with the idea and run a business?
Yeah. So basically, when I was working for Lazada, which got acquired by Alibaba, and I spent a lot of time in China. And I was fortunate enough to meet some of the original founders of Alibaba. And I asked them, hey, how was it 20 years ago? Because that was basically the stage we were in Southeast Asia, that China was 20 years earlier. And I learned a lot there. And one interesting thing was that basically Alibaba enabled all the factories in China to go direct to consumer and cut, because retail was very fragmented back then in China. It was still very complicated, very costly. And basically it enabled manufacturers to say, hey, why don't I have my own brand and go straight to consumer via Alibaba? And a lot of big fashion and beauty brands were built like that, which were initially just factories providing other brands. And they didn't want to invest in building a brand and figuring out the distribution channels. But with Alibaba, it was very easy. And there was immense wealth created and really cool brands created at that point. And that was really what spurred the interest in direct to consumer for me. And then by coincidence, I met the founder, Roshni Mathani, of theAsianParent. And so that was then an obvious click, because I was like, wow, okay, they have almost every mother on theAsianParent in Southeast Asia. They have 40 million mothers there right now. And so now we have the audience, and we can learn what they like, so we can make products for them. So that was really how I got to this. So and then we did all the market research via theAsianParent, as I mentioned before, and we understood better what mothers like, what they don't like, what the current products are that they use, and we felt there was a gap big enough for us to fill, which was like less chemicals, more natural than the mass market products, but at an affordable price. So yeah, and then we went for it.
And it runs.
It worked. It worked surprisingly well. Yeah.
Good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Surprised. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Okay, so next one. Uh, the question is Mama's Choice more worried about competition from large MNC brands or smaller or local challenger brands?
I think smaller and smaller challengers actually. Like I said, I've worked for very big firms before, and I've seen all kinds of firms, and I think that the niche we have is designed for smaller brands, and I think there's always ways for ourselves to position ourselves and to react faster to trends and create a product that's more interesting to a certain segment of the market than mass brands can, because they have a lot of limitations as well, right? It needs to have certain volume, they need to go through certain processes to do something. So I'm not so worried about them. But yeah, there can be other brands who are just as smart as us and are just as fast than us. So yeah, I mean, the more players, and the internet made it easier for people to enter the market, so the barriers are lower. So we're aware of that. But as said, I mean, I know my team's execution capabilities. I know what we've built. So I mean, I'm not very worried. I'm obviously cautious and I'm watching, right? But yeah, I mean, there's also room, right? As I said, the market is growing a lot, and there's still a lot of room. So there can be a few brands. Right now, there's no real other brand that's regional like us in Southeast Asia that does the whole spectrum of what we do. But there's some smaller brands in each country. But yeah, it took us a long while to get into every country, and I mean, I'm looking forward to people trying and competing with us because it keeps us on our toes. I actually like to have a strong competitor because then I can sit with my team and be like, so what do they do better? Why is this working better? It's much easier than when you're already on top and you have to figure out how to be even better. If you have somebody who does one thing better than you can learn from them and do that thing well as well. And then so having a strong competitor is not a bad thing.
Yeah, so the key point is like how to adapt faster and how to merge with the market, right?
Yeah, and how to really like find your weak points because somebody else is clearly doing something better, and then you can find out how they do it. You do it yourself, or you do it better.
Yeah. Just curious, do you actually do benchmark to other countries as well, or is it like same products?
Oh yeah, of course. So I mean, we benchmark a lot in the West and in China as well, because that's where more innovation is done right now, right? So we always try to figure out what's going on there, like Korea as well, and what are the trends there, and then try to see, well, will this trend come here fast? Should we try to jump on it already or not? And then yeah, we benchmark across Southeast Asia. We always benchmark ourselves. For example, when we launch a product, Meiyume has been a big part of that. That we always take blind tests. We always take the product prototype and we take the market leaders, and we do blind tests as well, like home panels with usually 30 to 50 moms, where we only are convinced to launch a product when it actually outperforms the market leaders in a blind test. It's quite interesting. Fun fact there: it sometimes doesn't work because people recognize the scent. So because the scent of certain players in the market is so strong and so memorable, that which is great for them. They've done a great job. We're working on that too. But that people cannot have a sort of a non-biased opinion because they already know the product. Yeah. And then they remember the whole marketing message of the product and the whole brand perception. But it really influences them. We've found some tests that we sort of removed the scent, then people judge it differently than when they smell the scent and they recognize it.
Ooh, very strong proposition. They know it already.
Yeah.
Okay, probably I would like to ask more into the personal stuff because I think our audience would like to know you more. Mm-hmm. So, probably, would you like to share with us like what is your biggest challenge with running the business and how do you overcome it?
I mean, I think that's what we said, right? Like excellence in execution, right? Mm-hmm. How to keep everybody on their toes and make sure they're doing their best. They're not just doing a job, but not just completing a task, but completing a task and thinking, is this really the best I can do? Can I do this better? go again out in the market, look around. Oh, actually, no, actually, this guy is still better than me. How can I do this better, right? So keeping everybody motivated to not just be doing a task, but to be like trying to achieve greatness, right? That is a constant battle also with me. Like, well, so humans, we are humans. We like to give ourselves slack and be like, yeah, it's good enough. But obviously, we all are customers that we never think it's good enough, right? And for example, right now we're reviewing all of our top selling products and we're like, well, they're top selling and people love it, but maybe there's a way to make them slightly better, right? Maybe the packaging. So we've worked with also you guys, Meiyume, on sustainable packaging. We use sugarcane tubes for a lot of our products now. We're still trying to find out like new refill solutions. So yeah, I'm driving myself and my team constantly on improving. And I think that's a key challenge. And then obviously there was some situational challenges with COVID, supply chain. Supply chain was a major headache the last 2 years, but 3 years. But that has improved a lot again. And now it's more like coming from the buffer of inventory we had to get to more efficient inventory.
Nice. Okay. Roby, do you want to share anything for any of our audience who would like to be an entrepreneur wishing to launch the direct to customers brands like you in Asia? Any advice for them?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, definitely do your data, right? Like, do your research. I think it's extremely, like, often you would see things in the market that are like, like maybe a small trend, but to be successful in this region, purchasing power, as said, is not very high. So people are scrutinizing your product before they buy. In the West, let's say in the US, people spend $20 on a perfume or on a shampoo very easily. You consider in Indonesia, most people still earn $200-300 a month. So for them, $20 is actually a lot. So people do really want to find out if your product is good, and so you need to do the research. What do these people really value? How will they evaluate the product? What's the product they normally buy? Because you will not get many impulse buys because that's just not how the region is yet. So in the West, you can do something where it's just very cool branding, very cool look, and people will just try it. In Southeast Asia, that's harder to do unless you're super cheap. So do the market research, do really understand who is your target audience and how big is this target audience, because you need certain scale, right? So some people will love it, but there's not that many. The mass market in Southeast Asia is still very simple, and if you do something very trendy, your market is going to be very small. Don't underestimate the capital you need, because to get a good price on a product, you need to buy certain quantities. Again, Meiyume has been very helpful on that. But you need to buy quantities in the 20,000s and more, and that means you will bind up a lot of capital in the warehouse. So while maybe your P&L, you're not making a huge loss, but you need to think about cash burn, because you will have a lot of your cash parked in the warehouse right away, and that can be an issue if you don't think it properly through in your business plan, because most people just do a P&L, but they don't think about the cash that's stuck somewhere, like in inventory in the warehouse. And then that's also something to think about. Products, I mean, we've launched a lot of products. We went super broad because that one thing, it's very good to have a lot of products online because people are able to build a basket and your order economics get better if people add 2-3 products per order. On the other side, having a lot of products means there's probably some that will not do very well, and your marketing is going to be harder to position every product well, right? So it's to find a balance, right? If you start just with one product and focus on that, that's great, and it might be very good, but getting the unit economics right is hard if people don't buy several products from your brand with one order. If you do too many products, you will have a lot of money stuck in the warehouse, and it might be hard to promote each product and position each product correctly.
Okay, I hope for those of you who would like to do some entrepreneurship. I hope that it's enough for you to share. I have a question actually. I mean, about what we talk. I'm curious because as we launched an NPD and come up with the quantity and everything, how do you manage? Because of course there will be like a risk that some of them might not be doing well in the market.
Yeah.
How do you manage to do that?
I mean, that's the data-drivenness, right? So we are pretty sure that the product will sell before we order something, because we looked at what sells in the market, what the volumes are, what the trends are, and then we do pricing research, we do fun West and dark surveys, we do shelf tests, we do everything before we decide on a product, and we do the blind test to look at the product performance. So there is very little chances for a product not working. We had one or two. So we phased out 2 products so far. So out of 100. So it's not okay, no. So let's say out of 50 personal care products, we phased 2 out. So yeah, that there were some defeats, but actually we still think, because we just went back to the market research, and we still think we have product there. I think just the way we executed on it wasn't great, but the demand is there. We just need to come up with another form or we need to fine tune it.
So we have to launch it perfectly, right? So that's very important to have a well journey in the market. Okay, I think one last question. Just before we close that, what is the key strength of Mama's Choice, and how do you see it in the future?
Yeah, I think it's what I said, right? Data-driven, for moms, by moms, which means our team, very engaged, that really cares about bringing out great products for moms. And then that we're a very digital-driven company, right? So what you see, a lot of older companies, they have this heritage, which is great, but it also tells them how to do certain things. And a lot of the logic is still from the time when you had to do offset print, and you could do one billboard and you had to do 10,000 versions of that billboard. I think that we are all, I mean, I'm by far the oldest person in my team. That we're all people below 30. I mean, I'm not below 30, but all of my team. And that I think I have an average age of 27. Having a very strong team of young people that think creatively, that are digital natives, that mostly are not from this industry. We recruited from all over the place, so that can bring in new ideas and really great passion to execute well. That's our strength. Yeah. So the team is really the core.
Interesting. Okay, I think no more question here. I think we have reached to an end of the session. Thank you, Duri, for answering all the questions. I hope you have a nice chat with me today.
It was great.
It was a very insightful session. And thank you also for all the audience who have rejoined the session. And you can also drop any question to us later if you still have some. Okay, so I think that's it from us. Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.